Jim Cunningham from Classical QED 89.3 here with our singers from the Beethoven Ninth, or at least 50% thereof. Great to have our tenor, Nicholas Phan, and Jennifer Johnson Cano, our Mezzo Soprano. Welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much.
It's great to be here.
Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. This is always a joy, and I know, Nicholas, you are singing a lot of Beethoven in the very near future. Yes,
yes, the whole month of June is Beethoven for me. So these performances are my first Beethoven of the month, and I'll go home to San Francisco after this and be part of their Beethoven festival as well.
I'm sure you'll be just as fresh at the end. We're delighted to have you here right now. And is this a debut for you with the Pittsburgh Symphony? I believe it is.
It is. My first time. Very excited.
Do you know anything about the orchestra? Have you been to Pittsburgh before? Have you looked around?
I've been to Pittsburgh. This is the longest I will have stayed for these next 5 days, but I know that the orchestra is fantastic and so thrilled to be making my debut with them.
Tell me about the Ode to Joy, this fantastic music by Ludwig van Beethoven. You've done it before?
Yes.
Yes.
Always a treat.
In fact, my very first time was here with the Pittsburgh Symphony and Maestro Honeck.
That was spectacular.
Yeah,
I was there for that concert.
Thank you.
It was really, really great. So the words are by Schiller, Friedrich Schiller. What is the message that he's telling us? What is he asking us to do when we leave the concert hall?
I think the message is just love is for everyone, and we are all one people, and we can all unite under his wing, his gentle wing. It's a really extraordinarily beautiful and powerful message, actually.
And for the mezzo, the words that you're singing, what speaks to you the most? It's somewhat flowery language, words that we don't say. We're talking about the canopy of stars and all sorts of wonderful poetic images, but what connects with you?
For me, I mean, we all sing the same words, which is what's part of the huge power of the piece, is all of these voices uniting and singing the same text. But I really enjoy the piece from the beginning to end because I feel like it really encompasses the human struggle and coming through in a positive way on the other side of all of the strife that anyone might experience during their lifetime. So I just enjoy the journey from the first note to the last note, and also watching the audience. We have the very fortunate bit of being able to actually look at the audience while this is all happening. And when they start hearing bits and pieces of the main theme, everyone sort of lights up because they know it. And so you kind of watch the entire audience turn into children right before your eyes. And to see that every time you get to do a piece is very exciting.
So what is the most demanding bit for you technically? Did Beethoven have any idea what he was writing here?
He was a little hard of hearing, actually, when he did write it. The challenge, I think, with Beethoven is that his writing for the voice is actually quite difficult. It's very rangy, and it also requires you to sing full throttle a lot of the time. So it requires a lot of stamina, and it requires a lot of ability to hop up and down in your range really easily and still maintain beauty to your sound. And it's a fun challenge, but it's very challenging nonetheless.
And what do you suppose connects so directly with the audience? It's always box office. People want to come and hear it. It was really revolutionary in its time. Apparently it was a hit from day one. What about this piece is it that you think brings the audience in?
I think it's the celebratory nature of the entire piece. I mean, in music, there are so many pieces which sort of leave you very ponderous and very serious and sometimes very sad. This is just the opposite. It's like a great shot of adrenaline and hope and enthusiasm. And I think it's also the thing that makes people want to see the Beethoven Nine over and over and over again, because you always feel so fantastic at the end of it. And you kind of want to get up and dance and run around the block a couple of times when it's all over.
He also wrote a great hit tune. And, I mean, it's almost as simple as that. People love the tune, and they want to hear it, and they want to hear it within its proper context and with the gigantic forces that are performing. It's one of those blow-your-hair-back experiences.
Commercials, music
Yes.
turns up everywhere. The Ode to Joy. This is one of the great hits of classical music. And it's a surprise when it arrives, too, because we've already heard a lot of instrumental music. Then we know that something special is happening when you come out on stage for the last part, yes?
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's like this great rush. So it really, I'm sure everybody will be on their feet as they were at the first one.
The thing about the first performance, to me, I just always imagine these people in the audience not knowing that the singing was going to happen and probably wondering who all of these extra people were on stage. And then suddenly to have that first vocal entrance from the bass, it must have been so shocking to them. And I love that he sort of flips the symphonic form on its head. And after him and after the symphony, all of these other symphonies start incorporating voices too. And that's really exciting.
And of course, we have the hope that we'll one day all be brothers. It's a shame that, in a way, the world is just as conflicted as it was in Beethoven's day. We still have people fighting in wars in distant places and sometimes not so far away, too. But the hope is that one day we'll all be brothers, which is the message of the text, as you explained. Now, tell me a little bit more about your career. I want to know what's happening with you. You both have exciting things going on. We'll let you go first. You've had a Met debut. All kinds of good things have happened for you.
I've been very fortunate in my work with the Metropolitan Opera, and I get to work with Nick on occasion, not as often as I'd like, and we both do a lot of chamber music and orchestral music and recital music. So I'm very lucky that this Beethoven 9 is kicking off my summer, and then I get to do a little early music with Dido and Aeneas, the Purcell up in Saratoga, and giving some recitals with my husband over the summer. So it's shaping up to be a really nice summer.
A career high for you, a favorite moment on the stage, something that from your long list of performances that you've already given, pick a great one for us.
I have to say probably the most exciting moment of my career was getting a call to step in at Carnegie Hall for Haydn's Creation with Helmut Rilling back in 2009 on 3 hours notice. So I actually walked out on stage and did the piece without any rehearsal, and not having sung it in public in almost 10 years and also in a different language. So it was that was a really exciting moment. Recently, my third album just came out. It's called A Painted Tale, and it's a bunch of early English songs for lute and gamba and voice. And I'm really excited about that. We just performed the program live at Carnegie Hall in March. And this summer, I've got a lot of exciting things coming up. I'm going to be performing Janacek's cycle, The Diary of One Who Vanished, with Jeremy Dank and Mezzo Soprano Sasha Cook in Seattle. I'll be at Tanglewood for 2 weeks. I'm doing an Elliott Carter song cycle with the Fellows as part of the TMC Contemporary Music Festival. And I will also be performing in a Defia opera with the Knights in Ozawa Hall. And then I go on a tour with Maestro Rilling through Germany of Bach cantatas in Weimar and Eisenach and Leipzig.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
big year. Wow. And what's it like working with our music director? You've worked before. You've met yet?
Yes, we have met.
Good. Manfred Honeck. He's very spiritual, very deep, and yet also has fun with it.
Yeah, he's a beautiful balance of both fun and deep spirituality. I mean, this piece actually is perfect for him because it has such a deep and profound spiritual message. And I feel very lucky that my first time doing this piece was with Maestro Honeck, because I felt like he opened up this whole world of Beethoven 9 that I hadn't even realized was there before. And I mean, those performances back in 2010 were extremely powerful. So I'm really excited to come back and get to experience it with him again 5 years later.
I wanted to ask you both a little about your career in its early days. How did you get started with singing, and when did you decide this is going to be it for my life's work? This is what I want to do.
Oh, gosh. I actually entered college as a choral conductor, so I didn't have it in mind that I was going to be a singer. But I was very fortunate that a voice teacher came into my life and said, hey, would you like to try this thing called singing as a career? And she put me on stage a couple of times, and I sort of caught the bug. And from there, she just sort of guided me in a very loving, caring way, and knowing that I was a little leery about the sort of diving in. And it was sort of fate, but I always loved music, and I always knew that I would have a life in music. I just didn't know it would be through singing and being on stage.
And it started in St. Louis? That's
It
where
did.
you were born?
It started in St. Louis, where I born and raised.
And Nicholas?
I was raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my parents handed me a violin for my 4th birthday. And so my childhood dream actually was to be principal second violin of the Chicago Symphony. That was my dream. And somewhere along the way, I started singing and realizing that might be a better avenue for me, because my chops on the violin were not quite what my singing chops were. So I made the switch and never looked back.
Well, now you're living the dream.
Yeah.
It's great. Really, congratulations. All right, you always have to assume that there might be somebody that's never heard Beethoven's Ninth before. So I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a repeat. But for someone who's just turned on the radio and is hearing two beautiful people talk about Beethoven and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, has never heard it before, what would you tell them to get them, bring them to the theater?
It's one of the greatest pieces of music ever written, and it's a piece about world peace. So get to the theater and listen to it.
I would say get to the theater, and if you've had a bad week, it's going to make your week better. If you've had a good week, it's going to make your week great.
Well, my week has been improved greatly by meeting you both. Thank you so much.
Thank
you so
What a
much.
joy. See you at the Symphony.